Hello and welcome back to another episode of Accountants Are Sexy, Change My Mind. This week we have Joe David with us. Now, I was introduced to Joe by Ollie from Starling Bank because Ollie asked me if I needed any introductions to amazing people, and I said yes, I need somebody who's going to come on and help educate me and educate my listeners about crypto. And Joe is the person that Ollie recommended. So welcome to the show, Joe. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good fun.
It's going to be good fun. So we've had a conversation, obviously, about your journey because you were like, "Am I the right one? Am I the one that like people want to listen to?" But your journey has been really bloody interesting. Like the way that you've got into crypto and what you have to say about it, I think is spot on. So, would you do me the honor of just kind of giving some context to where you've come from and why you're the expert in crypto at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So I guess the journey started really, summarise really quickly. The journey started when I didn't really know what my path was going to be. I fell into accounting through say luck and judgment. And I say that because the same kind of thing happened with crypto. For me, as much as it sounds wishy-washy, I kind of feel like the right place, right time is really important in life, and it does. You put yourself in the right opportunities and you put yourself in the right position, and good things can happen to you. And that's what happened to me for accounting. I happened to be working for an organisation who just as more administration, and then doing some invoicing and stuff like that. And my boss said, "Do you want to do AAT?" And I really found this passion for accounting, and I went from there. So it was kind of like I say, work over at time, put myself in an opportunity, things like that. Then we set up Nephos, which is a traditional brand years ago, something like that. And we always wanted to focus on supporting businesses, supporting founders, supporting entrepreneurial people. We never really wanted to focus on compliance. And I think part of that was I didn't work in practice when I started. So I never had a compliance mindset, if that makes sense. I always had a kind of commercial in-house accounting mindset rather than a compliance mindset. So we really tried to seek out businesses that wanted our support rather than just those who wanted our returns. And as you can imagine, to maybe like tech firms and startups and things like that. And that's how we kind of fell into this world of crypto, which was through a client of ours who we were working for, and she said, "Look, my boyfriend partner at the time is starting a tech firm. Can you guys have a chat? I think you'd be a good fit, etc., etc." Started having a chat. Had no idea that they were a crypto business. As far as I was concerned, they were a kind of a tech startup. Even when they told me about the business and they told me about crypto stuff, I still kind of felt this is just a tech firm. I didn't really think that this crypto thing was actually anything different, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how it started. It all kind of like fell. I'd say the first part fell into place by being working for a time, and the second part fell into place as well. So yeah, that's how we started.
Yeah. So crypto not being that different, like I don't really understand crypto. I do. I understand the currency. I understand it's not going away. I understand that we need to take it seriously. I don't really understand like the ethos behind it. Like I just it seems to have like magically appeared. There's lots of noise about it. You've got what's that big one? My mind's gone blank. What's that big crypto? Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin came, went, crashed, like in the news, out the news, like people were buying it all over the place, and then it seems to have gone quiet. So is this still something we need to be concerned with?
Yeah, so I guess like it depends. Like if you're an accountant listening to this conversation, then absolutely you need to be considering it, because you will have clients in one way, shape, or form that have invested in crypto, that have used it, tried, gone on Coinbase, which is one of the more larger exchanges, and much more retail friendly, and they've just gone on and bought some just to see what happens, and so you will absolutely have clients that have dabbled in it, and I think many or most clients don't really understand the kind of tax requirements or reporting requirements that come with it. They just kind of feel like they kind of feel like they're gambling in a way, right? They're just going onto a gambling website and kind of giving it a go, not really thinking too much of it. So I think education for clients is really important, because they do have to file, and if they don't file, then they have the same risks of compliance checks that any other self-assessment kind of client would have. And if they haven't filed, they're in as much kind of trouble, if you like, as someone that had a property and they didn't file the return on their property. So it is important, I think, that accountants are aware of it and are asking the question.
I guess so. It's like, here's my naive brain kicking in, but it's like somebody selling some odd bits and bobs on eBay. Like, odd bits and bobs you can get away with, but as soon as it turns into a return of and something substantial, then actually it becomes more of a business. Is that kind of, am I on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely. The only difference is, you could argue that selling the kind of the line between selling bits and bobs and becoming a trade, you could argue, are fairly clear. Whereas with crypto, there is no kind of hobby, if you are like, making money. Yeah, it's like you are trading, and if you're over the allowance, then you have to declare it. There's no, I'm just dabbling in a few bits here and there, and therefore I'm just trying to what I can get away with it. It's a bit different. So but it's exactly the same thing, where people don't necessarily understand their reporting requirements. People don't necessarily understand, as accountants we might know, but as clients we don't. So we're doing quite a lot of education. We're doing quite a lot working with accountants. We've got a couple of our team going to a firm, spend 2 days with some senior members of their firm, quite a large firm, to help, kind of give them some education around what to look out for, what types of questions to ask. So I'm a massive believer in education and supporting the community.
Yeah, and I think it's a real gap at the moment. As I say, I don't know enough about it. I don't have to worry because I'm not dabbling in it, so therefore I don't need to know too much. But I know that a lot of my friends, a lot of my contacts, they do dabble in it. They do talk about it. So if their accountants are not picking it up, then they could be in real hot bother, and that scares me.
Yeah, and I think because we all know what clients are like, right? And I mean this in a nice way. I love clients because they pay my bills. But
I love clients.
but ultimately it's never, and it's the same with all of us, right? As a customer, it doesn't have to be any accounting client. Let's take it away from that, so my clients don't hate me to hear it. But
you can use me as an example, by the way. I am an accounting client.
There you go. But it's never our fault as a customer, right? If there's a problem, it's always somebody else's fault, even if it's our fault, right? So it's the same in this area. I would say that if accountants don't deal with it, or don't look at it, or don't ask the questions, if an inquiry comes in 2 years' time or whatever, there's only one place that the client's going to go to, and that's the accountant, to say, well, hang on a second, you didn't talk to me about this, therefore it's your fault. So we can argue about whether or not it is the accountant's fault, whether there's any legal, I'm not talking about legal or anything, I'm just talking about reputation and all those different bits and pieces. Ultimately, you've got a duty of care to your client, you've got a reputation to uphold, and if you're not asking those questions, and therefore these things are slipping through the net, you can't just say, sorry, I didn't know to ask. It's not really good enough, if you know what I mean. So I think it is important that accountants are aware of it. I don't want to scare people. I don't want people to think, oh my God, what is this crazy thing? I don't want to go anywhere near it. It's scary. And that's why we're here as well. We do a lot of work with other accountants to, we can outsource, so we can white label it. We can, we can support in many different ways, but people do need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think that's the first step, isn't it? Having uncomfortable conversations about things that you might not know too much about. Now, accountants are not necessarily very good at discussing things they don't know a lot about. Like, they prefer to stick within what their comfort zones are. So going out on a limb and saying, do you have any crypto? Might, in their mind, open up a can of worms they just don't want to open.
Yeah, I totally understand. And, we have the same, and I'll just quickly add this piece, because we have the same thing with R&D. Right? So we don't do R&D tax in-house, and we probably could. We've seen enough. We've all done the exams. We've all kind of looked at what's bits and pieces, the rules and things like that. But we've never really done it in practice. So for us to make sure that our clients are looked after, we outsource it to another firm. Not because we can't do it, but just because we feel like that's the best solution for our client. So kind of like in crypto, sourcing it to a similar sort of thing. You don't, just because you outsource it doesn't mean that your client's then going to immediately think you don't know what you're talking about. People are more than happy to talk to experts in different fields. In this case, we are the experts in crypto, and we can help them in the same way that we outsource R&D work, and we're happy to do that. So I don't think accountants should be afraid of outsourcing or having those conversations, or even saying to a client, "I'm going to ask you this question because I want to make sure that we've covered it. But I'm going to tell you now, I don't know the full extent to it, so we may need to bring in some additional support." We say that all the time. We think we've got an R&D team here, but we're not the experts to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in someone that is, and they're going to help with that piece. But at least by identifying it, they've done the right thing by me, and they've tried to support.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to liken this to the marketing industry. Marketing is full of many different disciplines, and the more time goes on, the more disciplines you need to get the job done. Somebody very good at working on search and SEO isn't necessarily going to be the same person designing your graphics or writing your posts. Very different disciplines, very different requirements to get them fulfilled. So it's no stress for me to say when I look at marketing, I work on strategy and I get the specific disciplines in place to help with that. It's just exactly the same, isn't it? Like we do this part of your accounting and then we find the right people to fill the gaps.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for me, that's as a professional, as a service provider, whatever it may be, for me, that sets you apart from others, is that you don't pretend you can do everything. We can't do everything.
Yeah. We're not unicorns, god damn it.
Exactly. If only we were.
Yeah. So let's go back to the example that you were given. How nervous were you when, I mean, you said you thought, oh, it's not really a thing, like crypto is not going to really bother me. And now you have a whole business around it. So what were your concerns around this crypto when you first heard about it, and how did that progress?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't really have concerns. So we're quite a, should be careful exactly how I word it, but we're quite a risk-taking firm in that
adventurous.
We don't want to be the people that just say, we don't know about it. It sounds a bit iffy, therefore we're not going to do it. Like we would much rather understand it. And we've got quite a lot of clients in other areas. One of those being OnlyFans. Like we've got a large contingent of OnlyFans creators, and
there is definitely money there.
Exactly. And part of the reason for that is we said yes. Like, we do as much as we can to try and, obviously to do the checks that we need to do and things like that. And we've spoken to, the people that are press and certificate with them, saying, what do you expect of us? And your high insurance, same with crypto. We did exactly the same process where we said, what do you guys expect us to do? Now, when we first took that, I didn't think this is another business line. I didn't even know there was an opportunity there for a business line to be open. So all we did really was just work on it as if it was any other industry that we hadn't really dealt with much. We understood the concept of the business model. We understood the flows of revenue, flows of expenses, and things like that. And it just happened to be crypto that was just doing research and things like that. So we weren't concerned to take the work on, because for us, taking on work that other people didn't want to take on was quite a good thing for us to go. We're ambitious. How do you grow? The same thing, it's really hard to grow. So, by taking opportunities that other people might not, opens up doors. So that part of it was easy. The hard part, if you like, was then it was 2020 when we kind of all had a bit more time on our hands than we might have expected. That I then thought, you know what, I'm just going to research this whole crypto thing. I'm just going to put my whole life into it. And I don't think I quite realised when I said I'm going to put my whole life into it that I actually was going to put my whole life into it. It has taken over.
Whole, did it?
Yeah, but obviously on the flip side, that's been amazing because it's grown a whole new business out of it. So the day one of doing it, it was kind of like, it's just another client, we'll just get on with it. It was then the next piece around, okay, let's see what happens now.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
So the first crypto client came on board, you've got your head around it and you kind of immerse yourself in the knowledge. How fast was it until you found other business owners doing this?
So what what happened was we spent kind of 2020, support. Most of the team was supporting through, COVID and, all the kind of different things that they could claim and stuff. I kind of took a seat in my facing role and really focused on what next. This is a crazy time. We don't know what's going to happen. What does the next world look like? And for me, it just felt like crypto was that thing that if anything was going to survive a world where we couldn't see anyone, it was this digital, currency and digital ecosystem that didn't need people to talk to each other and didn't need people to do stuff. So I thought this is like let's do this. So 2021, at the start of 2021, we went, let's just give it a go. So we built a really basic website, and we use the same firm that built our NetHouse brand. We kind of spoke to them. We're like, look, this is what we're doing. We don't want to spend millions on it, but what do you think from a brand perspective? Created this brand, put it out there. It wasn't hard to be number one on Google for crypto accountants because there weren't many people doing it, and we just went, here it is. Let's see what happens. We just started getting inquiries, and I don't know, other accounting firms will probably say similar. Like, as a normal accounting firm, you don't really just get random inquiries, because why would you? Why would you get random inquiries when they tend to come through word of mouth or referral?
Your
because
network.
There's so many accounting firms. Why? For you to get 10, 15, 20 random inquiries a week would be, for a firm our size, would be quite unique. So we started getting these random inquiries coming through our website that we've never really experienced before. We just started to think, wow, this is there's a lot of people out there that are doing this. And we did catch a good time. 2020, the summer of 2020 and 2021 became a very big, as they call it in the space, of bull run, and everyone started making money quite easily in some cases as well. So we had all these people that they needed to declare. So we started at a good time in that sense, but also we kind of, just by putting a brand in, let's just see what happens. And the work just started flowing in.
Yeah, this is like, you can niche in various ways. This is, but having a specialism is one of them. And it's surprising how many people just put it off. Like, go out there and test the water. It doesn't need to be magic stuff. Like, we had
but if I can just quickly, let me just tell you a quick story about that, because I think it's really important for people to listen to, right? Because if you had asked me before we niched in crypto about niching, the amount of people that told me I should niche, the amount of people that you go to all these accounting conferences and they all say niche. And I sat there and I was like, why would I niche and limit my market when I can not niche and I've got the whole world as a potential client?
Oh, I hear this.
That was my view. So, and I know you hear it all the time. That's why I'm saying it, because I think it's so important. Because as soon as I niched, our crypto business outstripped the performance of our traditional business within 2 years that the other business began to hit, because we niched.
Yeah.
So
because you gave people a reason to buy from you. Niching is all about that. It's positioning. It's your market position, giving someone a reason to say, I want to work with you.
Exactly. And and like I said, I say it because I was one of those that, that would have said to you, if you had said to me niche, I would have said to you, no chance. Why would I niche? So I'm now like what do you call it, a convert or whatever, where I was like,
well, I'm just going to bottle you up and then show you to everybody.
Exactly. It's a true story of how niching can happen.
Yeah, and I think there's also something to be said. I went to DAS this year, the Digital Accountancy Show, and I was on stage with Joseph Cox. And Joseph runs a business called E-commerce Accountants. He stumbled across that niche, like you, very similar kind of start point, right time, right place, right kind of clients that came to him and asked for something. He comes from an e-commerce background, and he got the domain E-commerce Accountants. That blows my mind. Like that was even available. So
he's mental.
Yeah, so go and find these niches, and if you see one, capitalize on it. Just run with it, see what happens. So back to your story, because this isn't a story about niching, this is a story about crypto. People will be nervous about crypto because there are lots of losses. So as much as it's exciting, there's a lot to gain. There are lots of losses. And I would imagine, if I put myself in the shoes of an accountant opening up that conversation, is opening up risk again, because you don't want to advise people to do crypto. It has to be from
No.
their perspective. So how do you handle that with your clients?
Yeah, like for me, what is risk? Like risk is an area of unknown. Risk is something that something that maybe you are uncomfortable with because, yeah, like I say, this area of unknown. Like risk to people is different, and the scales of risk are different. So for me, I don't see crypto as a risk to our business because we have invested a lot of time and energy into understanding the market. So for us, we don't see it as a risk. Now, for our clients, do they take risks? Absolutely. Like, do they make loads of a friend of mine rang me yesterday and said, "I wish I hadn't sold that token and bought this token last week because if I'd kept that other token, I would have been like another 50% up, but actually I'm like 30% down." Right? So they're taking risks all day long, but that's their bag.
Yeah.
Our bag isn't to advise them on that. Our bag isn't to say that risk is right, that risk is wrong. Our job is to support them in terms of, how to report it where necessary, but also on the business side, is also to be sensible in their approach. So we had clients that, especially during the height of the market, they would raise a lot of money, like through VCs or whatever, and they'd raise it in the native crypto that maybe they're working with. That crypto, they hold all of that on their balance sheet. They've got no other cash. That crypto then halves, and all of a sudden their treasury is halved, right? So that sort of thing, we absolutely talk to people about best practice, but we talk to people about best practices if they were dealing a lot in Nigeria and they held a lot of the Nigerian naira, and we said, there's a risk to holding a lot of
Yeah.
Nigerian naira when all your expenses are in pounds, for example. Like, in the
Yeah.
same way that we would manage currency risk and things like that. So for us, it's about do we support our clients on like treasury and kind of currency risk? Absolutely, but only in the same way that we would with FX. But in terms of the actual risk, we don't feel it's a huge risk as a business because we understand the space and we're able to support, if that makes sense.
I think there's definitely a difference between advising them on how to trade and what platforms to use and what to buy into and all of that stuff, and then saying, look, this is what you've made, this is what's being this is the pots of money which are at risk at the moment. So I can see that. I can see the difference. What risks are there for accountants? Like, are there any at all, to open up this conversation?
I mean, you could argue there's AML risk, in a sense of, you could argue that there is the opportunity for crypto that's being declared on a tax return to have been part of illicit activity. But I've got two arguments to that. The first thing, if they're declaring it on a tax return, they're probably unlikely to have done a lot of illicit activity because you don't go and you don't deal a load of drugs and then ring HMRC and say, by the way, I've dealt a load of drugs and I'm going to declare the income.
I had a cracking year this year.
Yeah, like it just doesn't happen. So if you're a criminal, you tend to stay as a criminal, right? You don't tend to be a criminal and then declare all that criminal proceeds, on a tax return. So I also think it's unlikely that you're going to have this huge like drug ring that is then related to tax return, but it could happen. The other side of it is that crypto itself, it's harder to understand where the funds have come from. So again, if you want to understand source of wealth, it can be harder to do it. So there is an AML risk, but my argument would also be if I take on a local tradesman who lets his customers pay in cash, he might be the most legitimate tradesman that you've ever met in your life, but there's a risk to that cash that he is dealing in not fully being declared or not fully going through the books properly, right? There's a risk, and for me, there's no more of a risk in crypto than there is dealing in cash or something like that. So, like, there is an AML risk, and I think people should be aware of it, and people should consider it. And when we're doing our kind of like AML due diligence stuff, we do have to put down the fact that we deal in crypto, and it is a risk. But yeah, for me, it's a calculated risk. There's also, we take crypto in payment. So if, for example, we take Bitcoin as payment and 2 days later Bitcoin halves in value, there's a risk to us as a business that but again, we're able to take that risk. If we want to hold it on the assumption that it may go up or it may go down. That's our choice. So, there are some risks, and like I say, people will listen to this and people will say that they'll post articles, I'm sure, of all these different bits and pieces of risk in crypto and illicit activity here and dodgy stuff there. But in reality, it's the most traceable asset class that's ever existed. I could show you right now the movement from one of my wallets, which is unnamed, unKYC'd, and I could show you that going straight, well, not straight, but through a few different places, and I could show you ending up in a wallet that I own, and I could prove that. So it's actually one of the most traceable assets that ever existed. So it's balancing.
There's there is a real kind of swell at the moment with regards to different currencies, because we've got people that don't even like just the exclusive use of like debit cards, because it's removing cash from society. So we've got cash, debit, credit, then we've got crypto as well. I think there's going to be we're going to be going through a massive transition for a long time, while we're figuring out the best route here.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm one of those people that I don't believe that I believe in privacy. I believe in, I believe in kind of, choice. I believe in people being able to make a choice. And if they decide that they want to choose one path over another path that's legal, that's kind of how I would say, they should be able to take that path. And, so I am a believer that a cashless society is the wrong solution. Not because I want to use cash all the time. I quite like using my debit card. It's much easier. I quite like contactless things. You know what I mean? But I think people should have a choice. And I think where people do want to be able to use cash or crypto or debit cards and whatnot, they should be able to do all of them. So that's, for me, it's about choice rather than about forcing one over another.
Do you think there's a risk that crypto is just going to take over the world and our currency will be removed?
Well, I mean, your question there is a difficult one, because I would prefer the fiat currency to be extinct and for crypto, Bitcoin or, something similar to Bitcoin to be the currency that the world uses. So do I think there's a risk that crypto will take over? I don't see it as a risk. I would see it as an opportunity. But I don't believe that it would happen, because I don't believe that any government in their right mind would allow this permissionless, kind of free private database to be what the world trades in. I just don't believe it would happen.
I think they're paddling hard underneath the surface at the moment to try and keep up and work out how they're going to control this and what to do about it.
And I must admit, the UK are doing a very good job. Like, I'm not one to praise HMRC, but they do know what they're talking about. They do understand it, and they put out as much guidance as they can to an extent. So
I'm going to put that as a clip. The HMRC do know what they're talking about. Can we just make that into a meme or something? It's not often that good. So I think it's definitely interesting, because I was going to raise the HMRC. Do they have any concerns, or do you find it difficult kind of, once again, I'm not an accountant, so do you find it difficult putting this on returns and them understanding it? Do you get questions about it? Like, what happens at that end?
Yeah. We don't get any more questions, because we think we don't know exactly, but we think we've done around 800 tax returns with crypto. We've probably had 4 compliance checks, if then. 2 of those have probably been from clients that submitted returns before they even come to us. So, my point with that is the number of compliance checks that we're getting versus the returns we're submitting is really low. And that just because it's the same token as any other, whether you're declaring returns for any other industry, you will get compliance checks, because that's their job. Their job is to check that, because ultimately, I say this a lot of the time, ultimately all our tax system is self-assessment. The government tell us the rates and the rules, but we tell them the profit, or we tell them the revenue or whatever that we've generated, or, they don't check every VAT return that gets in. They don't check every set of accounts that go through. So you're going to get compliance checks because you have to. In a world where that kind of self-assessment tax process works, you've got to have spot checks to make sure people are doing it properly. So do we get spot checks? Yes. When they do involve crypto, my only comment would be that they're very I would say, naive maybe in their approach, where they say, "Can you send us a spreadsheet breakdown of the crypto transactions?" Which is fine if somebody's got 10, but we're talking to people that have got millions. We've got
Right.
one client that's got like 4 million transactions.
We
So
know.
in a year,
We know that spreadsheets don't go on that long because we tried to like have COVID on there, didn't we? Or tracking of like something.
yeah, exactly. So, like, you're not going to download a spreadsheet with 4 million transactions and send it to, like, it just, that doesn't, so there are things like that where they ask questions that are clearly kind of like generated. Send us this, send us this. So, in that sense, I think sometimes they could smarten that part up. But when you actually talk to them about it, in the main, they are pretty good. They do understand the concept of it. They understand the rules around it, the guidance. So yeah, we've only, and I hope, again, you're going to clip me saying this, I'm going to get shot by every accountant out there, but we have actually had positive experience with HMRC when it comes to crypto. Yeah.
It's good news. It's a light. It's a shining light at the end of the tunnel. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back to a couple of points that you made. First is you accept payments in crypto, which is interesting. Do other people accept, like, are you seeing more people accepting crypto as payments as opposed to just trading in crypto? Is that a new, not a new thing, but is it growing?
Yeah, for sure. One of our tasks over the next kind of 12 months is going to be to talk to, because we've talked about the whole crypto business, but the other side of the business is non-crypto. So we want to talk to all those clients about the opportunity to accept crypto and the benefits that it can bring. So yeah, we believe there's huge benefits, and there are lots of different people now in different industries. There's where I, as we talked about before, when I'm now based in Dubai, but there are lots of places in Dubai that accept crypto as payment. But even in the UK, I lived in Cheltenham in the southwest, and there's a local kind of Bitcoin community, and what they try and do each month is they try and go to an establishment like a pub or bar or restaurant, whatever it may be, that accepts Bitcoin. So they try and make sure that they go to these places, and if they are running out of places that accept it, then they try and talk to businesses and say, these are some of the benefits and stuff like that. So I absolutely think that when people see the benefit of accepting it, the speed, the transparency, the ease, all of that sort of stuff, I think more and more people do accept it. But as with anything, you've got to get over that hurdle of, I don't understand it, therefore why would I do it?
Yeah. Yeah. So the once again, naive question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when you accept payments, because people struggle with pricing their services anyway, so when you accept payments, it's just whatever the exchange rate is at that moment in time. So these are my prices, and we will
exactly.
accept whatever the exchange rate is in crypto.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's a story that goes around every year, and there's a day in the crypto diary. It's called Bitcoin Pizza Day, right? And it's about, I can't remember how many years ago, but let's say 10 years ago or something like that, that this person bought 2 pizzas for like 10 Bitcoin or something like that. Which now, Bitcoin's floating around $26,000 today. So, that's $260,000 worth of pizza, right? But at the time, there's 10, and I can't remember the exact number.
It was like pittance.
At the time, it was $10 or whatever, So at the time, it was. So my point with that story is exactly as you just said. People have taken payment in crypto, and that now equates to totally different value. So at the time, they just took it at the value that it was. So yeah, that's how we would do it, and then in the way that you would accept any other kind of foreign currency.
That
and
is
if that currency moves in value, then
Wow. That is incredible and so interesting. Like it makes me excited and makes me like really curious to get into it. Still terrifies me because I'm not a numbers person. So I'll be like, oh, I don't know what that means, but let's buy it anyway. Okay. But I have one more question for you before my final question. You mentioned traders earlier, like. I'm thinking like painters, decorators, people that come around to do your gas engineer, kind of like what businesses are involved in crypto? Do you have any guidance around that, or is there any things to does it have barriers?
I mean, it has barriers in that, and anyone who says that it doesn't have barriers, it has barriers in that accepting crypto. If I said to you, I'm going to pay you right now, the only way I'm going to pay you is in crypto, it would be nigh on impossible for you on your own. Like, you're not allowed to leave your room, you just got to accept crypto right now. It'd be really difficult. I mean, you'd find YouTube videos and stuff like that, but it would be really difficult. So there are barriers, like they are huge barriers in that people don't understand self-custody. People don't understand how wallets work. People don't understand wallet addresses and private keys and all these different buzzwords that bounce around. So there's absolute barriers in that sense. If you can overcome those bits, then it is frictionless, and the opportunity to move money around, and the opportunity to accept it, and all these different bits and pieces, it opens up a huge world. But getting over those first hurdles is the real challenge. Understanding a new way of operating, a new way of accepting money, and a new way of paying people is a challenge. We talked. One of my best friends is a builder. He says to me every day, "I want to accept crypto," and he knows how to, but he doesn't have any customers that want to pay him in crypto. But he's open to doing it as and when they are. So there's loads of different people that do loads of different things that just want to try a new thing and be different, if you like.
So the types of businesses that are your customers at the moment, what kind of range is there, and like what kind of people are you dealing with?
To be honest, our customers are mainly the kind of really native customers. Because our knowledge and our reputation in the space is quite strong. Like, we are going after the complicated, deep native crypto projects themselves, if that makes sense. So that is our go-to, because that's our expertise, and that's where we can go. If
that's why you immerse yourself in it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But if you're a marketing firm, recruitment firm, whatever, and you want to take crypto payments, actually it's not that difficult, if that makes sense. Once you've accounted for the kind of FX, if you like, conversion between the unit of currency, so GBP and say Bitcoin, and then you sell it and receive it in pounds, it's not that difficult. So yeah, for us, our target is as native and as crazy and as complicated as they come. That's what we want. Obviously, we support all different types, but in the main, that's where we focus our time.
Okay. So I do have one final question, which I ask all of my guests. What is the sexiest thing about accountants?
It's a really good question, because when you said that this podcast was called Accountants Are Sexy, I thought to myself, I'm not sexy in any way, shape, or form. So,
Did you ask your wife, what's sexy about this?
I don't love being an accountant, I'll be honest, right? I love supporting business. I love being able to help people, see people grow, all those sorts of things. And for me, the most sexiest thing about being an accountant is that we have such an insight into the financial understanding of businesses, of individuals, of their own journeys, and we can help achieve people's lifelong dreams by helping them, guide them through the web of what accounting, tax, and all those different things are. So for me, that is the sexiest thing, if you like, that we are able to help people achieve dreams and do what they want to do and be successful, and hopefully support them and prevent them from failing. So that would be my answer to it.
I think that's spot on, and I think this is a running theme. Yeah, I think the amount of times people have said accounting isn't sexy, it's what accounting does for their clients. Like, that is a running theme, and I think that really is the purpose of this podcast. The thing that's sexy about you, the thing that makes people just put you on this pedestal, is how you can help them achieve their dreams. So well done. Thank you very much for that. It's been honestly, it's been an eye-opening pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. If people want to get in touch with you because this is they're curious about it, how do they do that? Is it a website, LinkedIn, or should I put a link to somewhere?
Yeah, LinkedIn's best. Joe David on LinkedIn, you'll find me. All I talk about is crypto, so if you don't want to hear any more about crypto, don't bother following me.
Let me tune in.
We do have our own podcast. So if you want some, educational bits, we can give you the link to that, and you can stick that in the notes or what have you, and we try and we had someone on the latest episode that we released this week, which I don't know when this is going to go out. So I don't know when people are going to know what this week is.
This week.
On the 22nd of August, we released an episode with a lady called Susie who really talks insightfully about Bitcoin and about the opportunities and dispels some myths around climate and things like that. And I think if you want to learn about Bitcoin, I really would recommend that episode. So maybe we can link that in the show notes as well.
100%. And is that something that the accountants can listen to and their clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's focused on business and in general, it's not focused on accountant specifically.
Yeah. This is awesome. So I will drop that link into the podcast as well. So we're going to leave it there. But once again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.